Joined via Zoom by Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Patricia De Lille. Minister, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Now, Minister, a lot, of course, was said at the briefing this afternoon, and together with the Speaker of Parliament and, in fact, also the chairperson of the NCOP, a lot of reiteration that that the public should not be speculating at this point. So, Minister, take us into your confidence. What do you know so far about where this fire actually started and the extent of the damage? A lot of concern obviously coming out as far as it relates to safety and security, Minister.
What I can report to South Africa is that we brought in 10 engineers this morning, structural engineers, chemical engineers, and also an architect. They're also accompanied by candidate engineers. And they wanted to start work this morning to focus on the extent of the damage, the cost of the damage, and also the time frame it will take to repair. They could not get into the building this morning because the temperature inside the building is still above 100 degrees Celsius. Yesterday, it was over 400 degrees Celsius, so it's not safe for them to go in. So instead of waiting, they organized a drone where they could put the drone into where the roof has collapsed and any other opening in Parliament to start taking pictures to do the assessment of the damage. Currently, nobody is allowed to go in there. The building has been handed over to the police. It is a crime scene, and nobody will be allowed to go in there. So the engineering team that we brought in today has reported to me that they will be able to give me a preliminary report of the extent of the damage, the cost of the damage, and the time frame by Friday morning after 10 o'clock. So I'm just calling on South Africans to be patient. We are trying the best that we can, but because the building has been so extensively damaged, especially the National Assembly, access to the building is virtually impossible.
Now, Minister, for one that's, looking in at the situation from the outside and looking at these pictures that are being shared on social media, it is devastating. Also understanding that this is the seat of Parliament. Now, you have been criticized, Minister, as the landlord, so to speak, of Parliament, essentially being criticized for the safety element and the safety part of this. We know that the National Assembly Speaker, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, saying that the responsibility of both Parliament and police, it's the responsibility of both Parliament and police to ensure the safety of the building. But when one looks at your responsibility in terms of the safety standards, they have been criticized as being poor, Minister, and that, something has to be done in terms of, you having dropped the ball.
Now, that's absolutely nonsense. Absolutely nonsense. My department is responsible for infrastructure. The Department of Public Works and Infrastructure provided the CCTV cameras that the police were able to get the footage from what happened inside Parliament at that time. The problem is that there was nobody from the police that managed the monitor. They would have picked up that this person was inside the parliamentary building since 2 o'clock that morning. So the equipment that my department is responsible for has really been working. The other safety at Parliament is the responsibility of the protectors of Parliament's own security and then the police. So I'm very sorry, my sister. We provide the equipment for safety, which is the CCTV cameras, but the overall responsibility is with Parliament and the police.
Now, in as far as maintenance is concerned, straight after that fire, we understood there were several things that went wrong. For instance, the smoke detectors didn't go off as they should have gone off. Now, I'm raising this issue, Minister, because as you said also in the briefing, there is that BDO report that was done, after the 2020 fire that also took place in Parliament. A report was then compiled. It took several months before it finally reached you, we understand, and you handed it in to the Speaker not too long ago, a couple of months ago. Now, we understand that there were key findings of that report that were made. Now, talk to us about what these key findings are, and essentially, when will this report be made public?
My sister, there are two reports. The first report is about the fire that happened at Parliament on the 16th of March 2021. I have this afternoon provided a briefing to South Africa about where we are with the implementation of the repairs of the first fire on the 16th of March. The fire forensic department found that there was no foul play, but it was an electrical fault. So that is the one report. And that part of the building has now also been affected by the second fire. The second report is a report that I commissioned with the previous Speaker of Parliament in 2019 to make an independent assessment of all the infrastructure projects that were current at Parliament, their status, how far they are, when will they be concluded, were they on budget. So together with the previous speaker, we developed the terms of reference that we then gave to this company, BDO, to investigate. That report was finalized around about November 2020. The Department of Public Works and also the Secretary of Parliament, they kept the report away from the Speaker and from myself. I released a statement on the 23rd of September, you will see. In that report, I articulated all the things that were wrong with the current projects, including overruns on the budget, including poor performance, poor contractor performance. So there were a whole range of issues. Now, what I then did was to say to the Department of Public Works, the report is now going to the Speaker, and I handed over the report to the new Speaker somewhere November, December 2021. But in the meantime, I instructed the accounting officer of my department to start with remedial action on some of those issues that are wrong. I did promise the Speaker today that I will request my DG to give a report of some of the things that we've been doing to correct that. And then she will then has asked that I come and give her a briefing of the report, which is quite bulky, which I intend to do in the next few weeks, the moment I can get some time with the Speaker. So that report is not concluded, but it's not been processed by Parliament. But what I can assure you, my sister, is that that report will be made public, including all the findings and all the recommendations once the new Speaker had been briefed properly on it. Thank you very much.
Minister, as you look at, some of the recommendations that you have seen on that report, and as you assess this situation now in terms of National Assembly being essentially destroyed and also it being a national key point, what are some of the immediate findings that you are going to be implementing immediately as you obviously await for this report that will come out on Friday from the engineers?
Well, first of all, it's very difficult to draw any conclusions because there are so many investigations going on at the moment. So we also cannot draw a conclusion that the new fire is related to the BDO report. Once we get the findings of the second fire, then we will be able to make that link. So at the moment, until Friday, when I get the preliminary report from the engineers, we are not able to tell you now or to speculate, what can be done. But we are committed as Parliament with the Speaker, she's the Executive Authority of Parliament, to continue to give the media briefings as and when information becomes available. Thank you very much.
Minister, as we conclude this interview, just a final question from me. During the briefing, the Speaker, Mapisa Ngakula, dismissed reports that the CCTV cameras were not working during the incident. And you actually clarified that although the cameras were working, in fact, but they were not monitored. Do you think this fire could have been prevented if the organs of the different entities that were meant to be looking after this institution were working together and in synergy?
Well, definitely if the police did the monitoring of the CCTV cameras, they would have picked up much earlier in the early hours of the morning that there's some movement and there's a person moving around in Parliament. I think that by the time around about 5:30, 6 o'clock, when the fire, the smoke actually came out, if we had monitoring of the CCTV cameras, certainly it could have been avoided. But also what the CCTV cameras are showing, that there was a breach of security at Parliament. We need to find out how did this person get into Parliament? And because the person was arrested inside Parliament. So that's what I'm saying. There are so many unanswered questions. But as and when information becomes available, this person will appear in the court tomorrow. The Hawks is now in charge of the investigation. And I think it will be also appropriate to get the police to give South Africans further update about this case, because they are doing the investigation. Thank you.
Minister De Lille, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, as you have it, that Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Patricia